I think that the biggest thing is the connection. So in both my hybrid fellowship that I'm doing with Regis University and then the hybrid residency that I'm faculty in, there's a sense of community, right? There's always people that I can go to and talk to. There's always people that are, mentoring me in the background. And so even though a lot of our learning is maybe that flipped classroom, I get it on my own, I have this network of a community that keeps it really human.
Hollis, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Make sure I get this right. You're presenting your work with Duke Orthopedic Hybrid Residency team on how gamification can transform PT education.
That's right.
I was very excited for this. So
Okay.
I want to get into gamification because I need to chase a carrot. I don't mind. I understand. You don't have to convince me. Exercise is great and doing this and cardio and resistance all the way. I need to make it a game. If it's not a game, I get bored. I have no attention span. I leave. So I'm excited to have somebody who learns and studies gamification. So let's start with can you just give me what is your working definition of gamification? Because I feel like I maybe don't have the act. I feel like I know enough, but maybe I don't know what's your working definition of it?
Yeah, so if you look into this, you can find a number of definitions, but really what we're looking at is taking game elements and putting it into traditional education. Those game elements could be rules of the game, it could be points, rewards, maybe punishments, right? We always have a win and a lose. It kind of taps into that competitive drive as well. So the true definition is using game elements in traditional education. And the reason that we're doing this is to try to gain the motivation, tap into the competitive drive, increase participation from learners, and hopefully that's going to improve their outcomes, right?
And making them do it more.
Right.
All right.
Repetitive nature.
We're going to pause. Hold on a second, because you would hate me if we had video come out and there was a hair just going like this. I'm not a big hair guy, but I want to make sure we're good. We're going back. All right, good. So my definition, I probably wouldn't have said it as eloquently as you, but was pretty much that, which is I use something like a Peloton. A Peloton has a scoreboard and a rankings. And have you ridden Peloton?
Yes.
Lane break.
Yeah.
Not many people, I found it by accident. Lane break is sort of like a video game. So it's less of like the instructor telling you what to do and more like you're a wheel and you get points and it lights up and makes dings and there's a total and it gives me stars. Like all the things, even when I know I'm being gamified, I'm still a big dumb animal and I'm like, ooh, I need to get 100%. 99 is not good enough.
And that's how we are as humans.
We're big dumb animals. But even when we know the trick's being done, we still fall for the trick. So it's use the trick for good.
Yeah.
There's things called clickbait, right? But you can use clickbait properties and make people do healthy things also. So it's not good nor bad. It's what is the actual motive. So you're introducing gamification to PT education? This is a twist. What sparked that idea in that learning could look and feel and be more like playing?
Well, I think for us, for our Duke hybrid residency, obviously we're in a hybrid model, so it's almost like a flipped classroom. Our students, our learners, are getting their information on their own ahead of time, so they get this asynchronous content that they're given through videos, and then they come to weekend labs with us. It's our job to facilitate their learning and help them to apply and integrate it. And what better way to get their engagement than to make it fun?
Please.
Give a little bit of playfulness, a little bit of a gamified approach. So it's not just us saying, okay, now we're going to do a lumbar manipulation, and we do it, right? It starts to tap into, again, our big dumb animal approach. It gets us playing around, and we've found that through the gamification, we're also tapping into more of the clinical reasoning ideas than we would be in traditional learning, where it's I do one, you do one, right? So with a game, your learners are forced to think on their feet. So they're developing a really rapid, quick hypothesis, just like we do when we're getting a differential diagnosis. Then, in part of our games, depending on what you're doing, you might have new information just thrown at you, and your learners have to figure out how to pivot, right? Yeah. And then they have to be able to justify and defend their reasoning. So it's everything that we would do in a traditional evaluation or a treatment session, but now it's with the content.
How do you add the gamification? I see some. Are you yelling out 5 points for Gryffindor, and then something dings, and there's a scoreboard? How are you actually doing it?
So you could. What we have utilized so far, and what we're going to take AOM to conference members through right now is one, speed debates.
Ooh,
so it's basically like
those?
debating, but speed dating.
Got it.
So we would be standing here. Maybe you're for the pro team and I'm for the con team, and we have a concept and we have to go at it, and then we have to switch and we have to give the opposite perspective. So that's one way that we're doing it, and you kind of get points for who's winning the debate essentially. The other one that we're doing, we call it knockout. So it's likened to a basketball knockout game, right?
Familiar, yep.
We've played. Where we'll do it with manual therapy today, where there's a group of maybe 4 to 6 learners. You have one facilitator, which is the normally instructor, professor, etc. You're given a maybe diagnosis or impairment or a combination of the two, and then it's rapid fire. So somebody steps in and they do a manual therapy technique that would benefit that patient case. So let's say we have knee OA with limitation knee extension. You might go in there and do an anterior mob, and then the next person has to come in and do something different that would still reach that goal. And you keep going until last man standing, essentially.
So you have to keep thinking, okay, that's crossed off, that's crossed off, that's crossed off.
And at any point in that, somebody could challenge you and say, actually, I don't think that's appropriate for this case, and here's my reasoning behind it. And you can then try to defend yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trialing today, or we're utilizing today. But there's many other options. Have you heard of Kahoot?
Yeah, familiar with Kahoot. Yeah,
so online platform, trivia game based, you get points for your accuracy, and then you get points for how quickly you answer the question. So there's a leaderboard. Ding, 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 you win, right?
Flashing lights.
Yep. There's escape rooms.
Ooh, yeah.
This really came popularized in the COVID era where we were on Zoom and we could do multiple breakout rooms, but I've seen it also work in a traditional classroom setting. So this is the scenario where maybe you have a case description and your learners have to unlock different objective findings in order to get the information.
That was awesome. This guy just walked right through our shop. But we'll keep going. We'll just pretend like that didn't happen. Such an Easter egg. That's great. Keep going.
That scared me. So then they're having to unlock different information and adapt to it, just like they would in a clinical setting. And then there's some debriefing that goes on. The other one that's been popularized in the research right now is board games. Now, admittedly, haven't tried that yet. However, there's some descriptions of maybe using miming, like charades, essentially, forbidden words, almost like a catchphrase scenario. So that one I have to play with a little bit more, but it's been written about more often in research.
Yeah.
So there's some options.
Well, so there's some obvious motivations there. Like we love games.
Yeah.
And then we know people like games and react well to games. But then, I'm not saying who, but some people might have just said, we'll sit here and read this chapter silently and then I'm going to quiz you. And then, of course, that's not really exciting. So you're spicing, your variety is a spice life. So this sounds like just a load of different spices that you're able to pull off the shelf. So you've shown us like some concrete examples of what the games could look like. You're finishing your fellowship and stepping into a DCE role. How does your experience as a clinician, as an educator, gamifier, how's that going to influence things going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a big reason for me stepping into a DCE role. You know, I've been in the clinical side. I've dealt with students. I've dealt with DCEs as well. And then I've been on the education side over the past 6 years in DPT education and post-professional education. And so for me, this kind of blend, I have that clinical background. I can bring it to my students. I can give them real world examples of how they can be successful in a clinic. But then the gamification part of it is maybe I can make them, you know, a little bit more engaged in the material and hopefully have the best participation in my classroom going forward. Let's hope for that.
Any gamification principle you haven't done yet, but you've seen or heard? I mean, now we're in the time when you can come up with ideas and share them at scale. You don't need to necessarily bump into someone at a conference and have a 20-minute conversation. Message boards, group chats, Facebook groups, things like that, like sharing. Any gamification method you've seen but haven't necessarily put into practice just yet?
The board games is one of them, right? And I would say that's probably the one that I haven't tapped into. And for me, it seems the most daunting. However, what I'm hearing through other people is that with the use of AI, you can kind of put what you want to in there, and they can really help with the game design. So that might be my next step in strategy.
You give the ingredients, and it'll cook the meal, and be able to sort of modify.
And then you just put the content and concepts into it.
That's it. You've lived the hybrid model both as a resident and an educator. We talked about that. What's the biggest lesson you've learned about keeping learning human, even through a digital space?
Yeah, that one, I mean, it's a learning experience, right? I think that the biggest thing is the connection. So in both my hybrid fellowship that I'm doing with Regis University and then the hybrid residency that I'm faculty in, there's a sense of community, right? There's always people that I can go to and talk to. There's always people that are, mentoring me in the background. And so even though a lot of our learning is maybe that flipped classroom, I get it on my own, I have this network of a community that keeps it really human. And then I think the biggest part is when you go in for the weekends and it's just constant 3 days, 8 to 5, grinding it out with people who are still in the same, scenario as you. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me.
Is it, I was in a traditional program, right, Monday through Friday, and with labs sort of sprinkled in. I won't make you answer, is it better or is it worse? I know it's different, but it kind of feels like when you finally do get to the lab, it's this big excitement moment, whereas my labs were like twice a week, and they were over and over and over again. It was the same group and the same instructors for, however many, weeks in the semester. It feels like if you're going to do like a 3-day, and that's not happening every weekend, right? So it sort of feels like an event.
Yeah.
If your birthday was every week, it would be less exciting. So I guess that's what I'm asking is, how have you noticed those differences between traditional versus doing a really intensive 3-day weekend lab?
Yeah, well, and now to hear you explain it like that, I'm like, maybe the hybrid model with the intensive weekends or those weekend labs is similar to the gamification, right?
Yeah.
It's amping up and getting anticipation to get to this one time where you can nerd out, for lack of better terms.
Look at the NFL season. There's only like 18, 19 weeks.
Yeah.
It's one game a week per team, but
Right.
makes that one game a bigger deal, right? Which is why the stadiums are bigger. But, baseball in a 162 game season, it's like, well, they're all important. It's like, are they though? Because I know math works. 1/19th or 162nd. The stakes are different.
Yeah, and I think, in that vein, when you are gearing up to go into those weekend labs, the excitement is there, so you're motivated to get everything out of it you can, where maybe in the traditional program where you're doing this almost too repetitively,
right,
you can kind of lose sight of why you're doing it.
Becomes mundane.
Yeah, for me, I always get really excited. I mean, it's a travel moment as well. So I'm traveling to a place. I'm doing.
You're traveling. Where do you live?
Well, I live in North Carolina.
So you travel to Regis in Colorado.
In Colorado. Yep. So kind of a big moment for that, and then I'm trying to get everything out of it as possible. So it's an excitement moment.
I did that for jobs too. I had a remote job, and yet I made it a point to do on-site with sort of everybody involved in the team for like 2.5 days every other week or every 3 weeks. And it did have that. It was like, hey, you're going to be in front of everybody like tomorrow. Is your stuff done? Like, you better get your stuff. Because if you're there and you're like, I'm just not ready, it's different than if you were there every day. It's like, I'll have it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's sort of...
a little bit of performance pressure.
Yeah. In a good way. It's like, help me. Yeah. I'm a procrastinator. So I knew how much time was left on the clock, gamification.
Right.
And I knew when I needed to get my stuff together.
There you go.
How do you look at things like, I brought up Peloton. The watch I wear has rings. I'm sure you've seen, there's classes like Orange Theory. Again, big dumb animals. Even when we know the thing is a game. I was at the hotel gym yesterday. I sort of looked around. There was a rowing machine. I'm not a huge rower. I sat down. I said, I'll do 10, 15 minutes. And then I see a scoreboard at 5,000 meters. And now I'm like, well, I've obviously got to do 5,000 meters. I don't even know how long that was.
Yeah.
Context. I had no idea how long 5,000. I was like, this might be 20 minutes or 2 hours. I have no idea how long it's going to take me. So those components, do you look at them from a psychological perspective? Because I love calling my buddy who's a psychologist and go, hey, why do I do this? And he's like, okay, let's deconstruct that. But do you look at those principles from like the basic psychology and then say, how can we use that?
Yeah, so, there's multiple theories that go on that show that gamification works.
Yeah.
We have experiential theory. When you experience something and you have an emotional response to it, you're more able to retain that information and self-reflect on that information. There's, social comparison theory. That's the competitive drive, right?
It's like I go into a workout on Peloton saying I'm just going to stay in zone 2, but then I see a guy who's really close to me in points, and I'm like, I'm not going to lose to that guy, even though I have no idea who he is. I'm never going to see him again. Exactly. And I blow up my entire workout just to beat that person.
Exactly. And so that can happen. There is... Now I'm going to blank on everything, like a deliberate practice theory. So what we were talking about, the repetitiveness of it, we can do this game over and over and over again with a lot of different variables. And it's kind of like, I think it's Tiger Woods. He says he tries to make 1,000 club to ball contacts per day, and that's his deliberate practice so that he is good at what he does. So we have that avenue. But yeah, there's a lot of psychological theories that go behind it.
And I might be a little bit wrong, but I'm pretty sure on the prereqs for PT school, there's one psychology elective. One. You just had to have one. I had like intro to psych, but you could have had like a random psych. And yet then you get around people and you're like, oh, it's all psychology.
It's all psychology.
This is wherever you have two people involved, there's some psychology. Actually, just one person in a room, there's some psychology going on.
Contextual factors are huge.
Okay. If AMPT turned this conference into a game, where would you gamify a conference? They have you've been to conferences, they have conference bingo, and that gets you to go to the sponsors and advertisers and spend some time and get a stamp or yada yada. So how would you gamify large scale learning like this? Is there anything you could apply? I'm putting you on the spot, so this is a simple question.
No, I mean, I think it's a great question. The first thing that came to my mind is obviously when you're putting on a conference, you want people to attend and engage in the conference. So almost having a leaderboard of how many sessions did you complete today, right? And so then you have less people skipping out on sessions. I think having that leaderboard would be fun.
Questions asked.
Yeah.
Right, raise your hand. But then you've done things in asynchronous classes where you have to ask a question. And so then you're asking for the sake of asking. Yeah. And then you're supposed to chime in. You're like, that's a great response. I loved you're just trying to hit the word minimum. So there is I've seen gamification sort of be done poorly.
Yeah.
It could also be done well. But when it's done for the sake of just doing something, it could be
I think you have to have a reward. So at the end of the night.
That's a good point.
Right. So still maybe doing just for the sake of doing, but maybe there's a little bit more investment in it.
Yeah. I will have recorded the most podcast episodes at this conference. I am the only person on the leaderboard. So that's it.
There you go.
Yeah. Is there anything I didn't ask that you wanted to share about the multitude of different things that you do? Because you're doing several things at once.
I am, but I think we touched on most of it.
Okay. Last thing we do on the show is the parting shot. It's a little bit like a game.
Okay.
But just what's the last idea, quote, mic drop moment, soapbox statement? What's something you'd want to leave and make sure the audience remembered as we wrap up?
Let's say this. I think the most important takeaway is that getting people to listen to you and be motivated to do better is the best thing to push our profession forward.
Yeah.
So if we can tap into the psychology, not only of our learners, I've talked a lot about our learners, but let's say our patients as well. If we can tap into the psychology and kind of use that, and manipulation is generally a bad term, but manipulate them to get what we want out of it. Yeah, usher them. I think we will continue to move this profession forward.
Love it. Hollis, I appreciate you dropping by and doing this. I know I want to say congratulations. There's someone real young who's a little bit too young to gamble in the hotel.
A little too young.
Who's that?
So my son, Keenan, he's 8 weeks old.
Yeah.
He's upstairs with my husband right now.
Well, make sure you get a picture of the Welcome to Reno sign.
There you go.
With the new edition, and he'll remember it always.
He'll remember this forever.
Never remember any of this. Hollis Bixby, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Hands On, Hands Off, the official podcast of AMPT. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode, and connect with us at ampt.org or at AMPT on social. Opinions are those of the guests and not official AMPT policy. See you next time.